Hey, what's going on, everybody? Back again. Busy week, last couple weeks, so been a little delay in doing some videos, but back to it now that everything is as should be. This is episode 17 of season 2 of Twin Peaks. It is titled Wounds and Scars. So let's get started. Now, we open up with a nice little jazz piece, almost kind of like a film noir detective type soundtrack playing in the intro. Harry's having a drink or two and remembering the love he lost. So it's a nice little homage to Josie, I guess, even though she was less than savory as far as human beings go. Hawk brings some breakfast from Norma, but Harry's got a bottle of Jack Daniels to work on, so I don't think he's in the mood to eat. All right, Annie shows up at the Double R. I hope you recognize that actress. Looking lovely as always. Heather Graham, I do believe her name is. So yeah, she was quite a knockout back in the day, to say the least. I remember her from the Corey Haim and Corey Feldman film License to Drive. She played kind of the eye candy chick that the kind of the loser slacker guy ends up with at the end. So yeah, she was looking pretty good. Annie's having to adjust to coming back to the real world because she's been in a convent convent for a while. So life's been a little bit different, and the reasons why she went to the convent in the first place, well, I believe we get more information about later. But remember Norma's mom, and how she was. Even Annie said that, should we talk about what Mom and I talked about, or should we be happy? So having her as a mom probably didn't help bring the upbringing very much. The log lady shows up and makes a beeline to Major Briggs because she sees the mark on his neck that he received from his disappearance to where we assume was the White Lodge. Hawk relays Harry's current state of mind to Dale over at the sheriff's department, as Dale's kind of looking into all of the Thomas Eckhart stuff, since it's would have been Harry's jurisdiction, but Harry's not in any mood to do any policing, so Dale's kind of stuck sorting through all the paperwork and whatnot. Doc Hayward gave some interesting information to Dale. After the autopsy, couldn't establish cause of death because Josie's body only weighed 65 pounds. Hawk is obviously in disbelief, and I think that would be double for yours truly. Remember that Dale saw Bob and the arm, or the midget, in the red suit right after Josie died. And I'm not going to try and figure this one out too much, because the only thing I can think of is, we didn't get any kind of weird autopsy report on Leland weighing less when he died, because there was, because he was inhabited by that spirit. So was Bob inhabiting Josie's spirit when she was doing these things? It's hard to say. We saw that kind of weird thing with the handle on the drawer where her face was kind of superimposed over it, and it started coming out all distorted. So it's anyone's guess why the autopsy report came back and why her body she probably weighed 105 pounds to begin with. But so I'm not going to try to theorize on that too much, since it's not enough information to go on, really. And apparently Wyndham Earle has yet to decide on his next move on the chessboard, so the wait continues. Speaking of which, we're back at the cabin in the woods, and Leo is bringing Wyndham his slippers, his pipe, and his newspaper, much like a well-trained dog. So I guess Leo's rehabilitation into polite society is going off without a hitch. And much to Wyndham's chagrin, Cooper is playing a stalemate game, which he realizes almost instantly after he puts the new piece in its spot from Dale's post in the classifieds. And needless to say, Wyndham is not pleased. Basically, in Wyndham's sick mind, getting any kind of help, as Cooper has done by enlisting Pete's expertise, is some kind of breach of etiquette. We see Wyndham wearing a ring on his hand, which I assume is his wedding ring. I'm going to I don't have any proof about that, but we know we've had the symbolism of rings before from the giant, the one-armed man. So I don't want to read into this too much at the moment until we get further information. But I'm assuming it's his wedding band, but we'll see. Audrey demonstrates how to walk down a runway at the Great Northern. Dick Tremaine sexually harasses a couple of local women, and Mr. Pinkle shows up with a stuffed pine weasel. So they're all getting together for the Stop Ghostwood soiree, as it were. Alright, let's see here. Dale shows up and gives some info to Harry, who has no interest in hearing it, who's been nursing a bottle of Jack Daniels, probably for the morning. So yeah, apparently Josie was not only a criminal, a murderer, and involved in a whole lot of other unsavory activity. She was also a prostitute, at least, or was arrested for prostitution at least twice. So she was probably doing all sorts of stuff over in, who knows if it was all in China or not. Hard to say. Dale is trying to do his best to console his friend, but Harry has yet to hit rock bottom yet, so he's still a bit standoffish, shall we say. Catherine looks like is looking over blueprints. I don't know if that's for the mill or if that's for the Ghostwood project or whatnot. I'm assuming it's the Ghostwood blueprints. When Eckhart's assistant arrives to bring a gift, basically a nondescript black box, and that black box becomes kind of an interesting side track or side trip, I guess you could say, away from the main storyline. So that plot involving Pete and Catherine and Andrew and all that still maintains some decent, entertainment value. All right, so Wyndham shows up at Donna Hayward's home, pretending to be a friend of her father's from medical school. I guess Donna isn't able to pick up on his evilness like she was with Leland that one time when he was inhabited by the spirit of Bob. So nothing is tripping her spidey senses, shall we say. But little does she know that she's on a short list of potential victims in the role of the queen, or the queen playing piece on the chessboard, who's ultimately probably destined to die, just like the king. He gives Donna a small gift to give her father and then leaves. And back at the sheriff's department, Pete's working on some different stalemate games. I guess the best case scenario for him, after all he's kind of worked through, is that the minimum 6 people die. And I believe there's at least 6 pawns on the board. I can't remember exactly how many pieces are on a chessboard, but I'm pretty sure there's at least 6 pawns. And Dale basically says Wyndham's Achilles heel is impatience, so focus on protecting the most important pieces. Basically, if some pawns get taken, it's better than royalty, So that's just how the cookie crumbles, I guess. Major Briggs and the log lady show up and discuss the symbol on the side of the Major's neck, which he got from his disappearance, as we mentioned earlier. And log lady also has a mark on the back of her calf, it looks like, that she's had for quite some time, actually, since she was 7 years old. Apparently, she was off walking in the woods, and she also had a similar experience with a flash of light, a call of an owl, and she was gone for, they say, at least a day, but had no any memory of what happened. So apparently she also at some point was taken to the White Lodge, which we can assume because of what we know about Major Briggs's experience. So we have a flash of light and a mark of some sort, which obviously, if it's perfectly, it looks symmetrical. His is symmetrical, so obviously, and they weren't there before, so obviously there's some significance to the symbolism. But neither of them can quite remember, even though they do have the strong intuition that these symbols are fit together somehow. Perhaps these were clues that were meant to help Dale and company when the time was right, even though she's probably close to, she's got to be close to 40, and the actress in this film, I would say. So yeah, it's been a long time since that, her experience. So maybe these events were destined to happen, maybe it's just a freak occurrence, hard to say. And then back at the Audrey and John Justice Wheeler storyline, as the Audrey turns, as I like to say, moving on. Donna's parents return. She mentions the visit from Gerald Craig, who was actually, in fact, was Doc Hayward's roommate and drowned on a rafting trip on the Snake River. And yeah, I'm familiar with the Snake River. It's right around the Tri-Cities area. Same with the Columbia. They run through there. And yes, floating down the Snake River or the Columbia on, inner tubes or anything of the sort is definitely a popular recreation during the summer over there in the Tri-Cities if you're trying to beat the heat, because it is hot as hell there. I mean, obviously there's places like, Death Valley and places in Arizona that are worse, but believe me, I remember it getting up to 115, 116 at times at the hottest points of my time living there. So yeah, that's hot enough. Yeah. So it's also a place where people like to, or at least the Columbia River, go and take the boat out. They have the Hydroplane Races in August, or actually was the last week of July at the beginning of August. So yeah, just a little trivia for you. I would avoid the Tri-Cities. I hate that place, but that's another video. Let's not wander off into my reminiscence of memory lane. Yeah, so we see a chess piece and a chess deal is the gift left for Doc Hayward, and the contact number is for a cemetery. So yes, a little bit of a hint there that somebody may be dead soon, I imagine, or just a little morbid humor from Wyndham Earle. Ed and Dr. Jacoby are sitting there trying to explain to Nadine, who, as we know, thinks that she is in her senior year of high school, about getting a divorce, and then suddenly she realizes that she can't see out of her eye. It's kind of funny. Yeah, then back at the Haywards, Ben Horn shows up unannounced to visit Donna's mother, apparently, whispering something into her ear as Donna watches, and also holding her hand rather tenderly, so not sure what that's about. On to Double R, Norma tells Shelley she should sign up for the Miss Twin Peaks contest, and Shelley thinks that's kind of a goof. But Wyndham Earle, who's disguised as, I guess, a biker or something, says that she should definitely sign up because he's got plans. You can imagine Miss Twin Peaks, the most prominent girls in the society of Twin Peaks, being probably the ones that have had the most screen time, such as Audrey Horne or Donna Hayward or Shelley Johnson. So yeah, and those were all the three that got the piece of papers ripped up with the poem. And yeah, so I'm sure Wyndham is more than happy to encourage those particular women to join the Twin Peaks contest. All right. Dale meets Annie for the first time, and needless to say, love at first sight for dear Dale. Which could be a good or a bad thing. We'll have to find out. Hawk comes to tell Dale that there's a problem at the bookhouse, where apparently Harry has been relocated to from the... I guess maybe I don't know if he was there the whole time. I guess he must have been there the whole time. He wasn't at the sheriff's station at the beginning, so he must have been there the whole time. My mistake. Yeah, so Harry's hit rock bottom. He's got that bottle of Jack and a sidearm. Not a good combination. Harry gets his grief out in the open about, how Josie, came and, when, I guess maybe Twin Peaks was kind of a boring place for him, particularly, and nothing was going on all that great. Maybe a little too much repetition and routine, and she kind of spiced up life, made things a little more exciting. Fell hard for her, and so on and so forth. So, but eventually he gives in and lets his friends, help him out to get him back on the road to recovery over his heartbreak. At the Great Northern, Mike and Nadine are checking in with disguises. Kind of goofy. I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, the Stop Ghostwood soiree, fashion show, and political speech about the, or I guess not speech necessarily, but a little introduction to the reason why that they are trying to stop Ghostwood, that being the preservation of the little pine weasel. Gives some good comedic relief from all the seriousness that's been going on with Harry's troubles and Wyndham Earle's devious plot and so on and so forth. So it's good. I don't mind it too much. I always kind of liked it, especially with Dick getting bit on the nose. That's always kind of funny. And I'm pretty sure that there's another section of that coming up. I think they do a wine tasting in the next episode. Hope I didn't spoil it for you if you're a big wine aficionado. Yeah, so we've got that, and then at the very end, somebody sneaks into the bookhouse. One of the bookhouse boys is on guard, I guess, or keeping an eye on Harry, and he gets smacked up on the back of the head by a slapjack or blackjack. It's a little handy little tool if you want to knock somebody out cold. And looking like it is none other than Eckhart's assistant, the blonde femme fatale. So apparently she's stripping down either because it's extremely hot that day or she's got other plans. But yeah, Harry is not looking in a good position. And remember, I mean, there's possibilities for this taking place, but Harry, I don't know if the assistant is wrapping up old business before she gets out of Dodge because she could be implemented in some crimes because, obviously she was an assistant. Obviously, Eckhart probably didn't care too much for the fact that Josie was seeing Sheriff Truman and after his death, maybe wanted him taken out to as one final little bit of revenge, or maybe he would be a possible witness, yada yada, though Cooper would be in the same situation as far as being a witness, so why she's there is anybody's guess, but it looks like she's up to no good. So let's leave it at that. So yeah, that is episode 17, season 2 of Twin Peaks. It's alright, it's nothing too exciting, it's kind of I wouldn't call it a filler episode, because there's new reveals and information there, but it's kind of, it's kind of an average, average above average type episode when you look at the whole of Twin Peaks. So it gets us moving along and to some new plot elements. Annie comes in. She's going to be a big part for the rest of the show because of her and Cooper kind of hitting it off, as we've seen already. Then Ben Horn showed up unannounced all of a sudden after, to visit Donna's mother and whispering something to her. So what's he up to? And Harry's in some danger. So, and Wyndham Earle's plans are moving forward with as planned. Plans are working as planned. So yeah, that'll lead us into episode 18, which I will be doing next. I'll probably record that, and then 19, and then just throw all three of them up at the same time. So until then, folks, we'll talk to you in the next episode. Take it easy.